Alright. Here we have another group match. We have Marigio versus Dan. Ooh, that was a small voice crack, my bad. But Marigio looking like they're going for a G tier at the start, but it looks like they're going for a power chain? I know, the chain is actually pretty clean. Dan does get their chain off, but both players offset each other with the 5 chain. Marigio is a bit more powerful though. Marigio getting a lot of greens and blues. Their chain setup is pretty clean. Looks like they might have themselves an out player. Very close. Ooh, Marigio again just barely offsets, or just has a more powerful chain to offset Dan. Dan is chaining more cleanly, but Marigio is getting paid off for their powers they're adding. Ooh, taken out by a single piece of garbage. Marigio takes the first round. So Dan is a stairs player. Marigio is looking more like a freestyler. I see the base is like sandwich, but there's no clear form happening. Or it's stairs. Oh, I was looking at it in reverse. Oh, Dan not having the yellow they need. That's harassed by Marigio. Okay. So Marigio seems to be... I don't know if they're aggressive or they just don't complete their transitions. They just kind of set off what they have, because they have been attacking effectively, but they don't have, like here, just there, their chain was, their chain was just not ready. Or, I mean, their transition just was not complete. It was a very risky attack, which, as you've seen here, does not end up working. Dan rebuilding their transition. Barely getting their second chain off. It's a power 5, which seems like Marigio is just not able to offset. So I believe Dan has a huge chaining advantage, but they really need to look out for when Marigio sets off their chain. Marigio does not seem to build extensions. Like right now they have their tail ready, but building an extension on this will be difficult. Sets off a 4 chain. Oh, Dan is just not ready though. Doesn't have the right piece they need at the right time. Despite their chain being fully ready and open, I guess Dan just... Excuse me. Sorry, I'm burping a little. What was I saying? Yeah, Dan has a pretty large chaining advantage compared to Marigio. And ooh, Dan making some mistakes on their chain. Marigio getting some fast follow-ups. Marigio definitely has a harassment advantage, but not really in like a... They're not like... It's kind of hard to say because they're not really a harassment player. They just kind of set off their chain as soon as they reach a dead end. And that dead end just so happens to be before they get an extension out. It does look like they're a fan of all clears, which they do get. I just tend to see them get really close to them. But Dan does catch this. It's a 5 chain. 5 chains tend to nothing to take out opponents. But Marigio is just enough to live. Covers up Dan's resources at a pretty equal position right now. However, Marigio doesn't have any resources, and the more and more Dan sets off chains, the closer they get to reaching the rest of their chain. I'll put them at a big advantage. Dan not getting purples though. Oof. It always hurts to just watch a player just not get the colors they want. I feel like Dan was in a pretty advantageous spot, but things just got a little too rough. Both players get a power 2 chain. Dan looking really good in their situation. Looking like they want a specific piece. Oh, it's again attacked, but has something of a counter set up at their play. Not to quite a big scale, but it's enough. Okay, Dan finally reaching their resources. Marigio has been just sending non-stop small attacks. I feel like Marigio should have built something bigger because now Dan is ready to turn this around. Their stairs are ready. They just need to do a little digging, but oh. Ooh. Oh. I'm going through a lot of the thinking right now. It's looking like Dan really had that, but Marigio really catches Dan off guard. I wasn't paying attention to how the garbage was falling, but it did look like that. It did look like that Marigio got a lot of garbage onto Dan's column 3, and that was just a key point where Dan was setting up their next pair of stairs. Okay, Marigio comes in with a 5 chain. Dan also has a 5 chain of their own. It has a bit more power to it though, which will offset what Marigio's all clear. Marigio still does get their all clear off. Dan only staying off a 2 chain. Takes the same amount of garbage Marigio just took. And they're left at a pretty even spot. Both players have resources at the bottom to their dig. But yeah, that's just Oh, Dan just barely dealing with the ghost rose. Ooh, just barely gets what they need, and offset's enough to not die. Again, Marigio just not sending quite strong enough harassments, or often enough harassments to really take out Dan for sure, but they are at a huge advantage, seeing as how much space they have. And that attack's gonna finish off Dan. Bringing it to match point. It seems like Marigio just tends to really take Dan off guard. I feel like this is another moment where I just like to realize just how much Puyo Puyo isn't all about making the biggest chain. There's a lot more than just that to it. But anyways, Marigio sets off a very power-filled chain. Dan sets off a pretty unfinished chain. It's just not going to be enough to offset Marigio's very powerful chain. And Marigio ends up taking the match. Despite their chaining disadvantage, like I just said, they were able to take the win through harassments and attacks. And well played.